is Huberta Marijtje Moed, but now I'm married. My name is Wolt, and I've been born in 1927. I was born then in Holland and went to primary school and high school. And then we had in 1940, all of a sudden, we got a war against the Germans. And it was very trying, especially in 1944. A lot of people passed away, or there was no food. But anyway, we survived, and I came out of a family of 14 children, so there was quite something. But the last year of 1944 was very hard for the Dutch people. My father was in transport, and his trucks and horses and carts were taken off him when they were needing him on the Eastern Front against Russia. Yeah, when Germany invaded Holland, early in the morning, my dad came out of bed and we had a three-story home, and the boys were sleeping on the top. And all of a sudden my dad said, "Boys, can you keep quiet? It is only 5 o'clock in the morning. We don't have to go to work yet." And one of the boys said, "We don't do anything. There are planes going over. Didn't you hear them, Dad?" And we were looking out the windows and here piles of German planes came. And so we find out through the radio that Holland was in war with Germany. Germany, a big country, took over. So we were 5 years occupied with the Germans. It was tough life, especially for parents who had children, especially in 1944. It was a disastrous winter, and a lot of food was not to get. Even you had the Germans arranged to have a coupon, and you have to go to a place, they call it the kitchen, and then you could get some soup or you could some other food for the whole day. Some people in the cities, they would go for long walks to the country and ask the farmers for food. And a lot of people from the towns, they would take even gold and silver and beautiful ornaments to swap over for food. So that was not very pleasant. But in 1943, my two older brothers had to go to work in Germany. But then I had an uncle. He was really playing with the German people, with the Germans' occupation. He wanted to make sure that the family were getting food to eat, and he started to work for the Germans. And in one way, it would help us when then one of my brothers had to go to Germany, but the other one could stay home, or that his wife was expecting a baby any time. But I never forget, when my brother came back after 18 months, he looked ghastly. He looked a really sick man. He had to work in a tin mine. He was needing a liter of milk every day, but he couldn't get that, especially at the end of the war. And when he came home, he was full of boils. And the friends of my parents, a doctor, he tried to mix some stuff to get it on the boils. And then he was standing his hand on the table, and my mother was putting that stuff on. And a couple of days later, she had to touch it, and that the dirt came out. And I was watching that, and I said, "I hate the Germans, what they have done to you." And he was a very good-natured man. And he said, "Forget sister. The Germans didn't know what they were doing. I forgive them that I had to do this work, and I could handle it. When I was one of the strongest of the family." So when he got healed, it was really a joy. But then the Germans want him back, working in Germany again in a tin mine. But while my father's brother we were flirting with the German, to get some, sometimes some news or getting some food from them. He arranged a passport, false passport, the photo of my brother but a different name. And when he had to go to an office in the city, they said, oh, you have still the age that you could work. But anyway, oh, here's a letter from the doctor. You have TB. Oh, you better get away. But it was not the real story. It was just to try to get him out of that he doesn't have to work. And after the war, well, my two older brothers, they start over again with business, and they did well. And what I remember with my oldest brother, he was in the Navy. He was a captain in the Navy. And when the Germans occupied Holland, the Dutch Queen Wilhelmina said, just, you people have to go to England. And from England we're going to Canada. We don't want the Germans to have the Navy. So that's what my oldest brother did. And after the war, when he came back, he had lots of medication, and there were films shown by the English pilots when they would fly over Holland low, and would film, and they saw people lying on the street and sort of in a bad state. So he thought I'd better bring a lot of medication. And when he came back, we had quite a laugh, and a lot of the stuff we even couldn't use. The doctor said, no, that's not good for that, that's not good for that. But anyway, that was quite a blessing too when my brother came back for a long time, I don't know how long. He had to be in the North Sea and around England with the boats. And once he was torpedoed, and he was for some, I don't know, days or a couple of weeks in the water in a rubber boat with 6 or 7 men hanging the legs in the water. And then they got rescued by the English. And when he came back to Holland, we call him the man with the sea legs. But he was walking very funny. But after the war, my dad didn't know what to start with. So an uncle of mine who was a captain of a big company, and when he came back after the war, he said, oh, I've been in New Zealand, I've been in Australia and Canada, wonderful places, start all over again. So we decided as a family to start over again. But then after testing we had to be tested on our bodies, and then I found out my dad had lung cancer. So the whole idea to emigrate was over. But then a couple of years later, after my father died, my youngest brother, one of the youngest brothers, went to New Zealand. He had seen different films. So he went first. 6 months later, his fiancée. And not long after that, I left with 2 sisters and a brother-in-law going to New Zealand, tried to make a new life. I was quite happy in Holland, but we promised our dad that we would look after our father and after our mother and 4 young siblings. But so it took, and then we went in 1953, February 1953, to New Zealand, arrived in Wellington, welcomed by the Maoris. I was quite shocked. It was a war welcome, but it was quite interesting. And so they sent me to Christchurch, and I had to work in a factory. I first didn't like it, but then I thought, never mind, nobody in Holland knows what I'm doing. And in a year's time, I met my husband, Dutch from Holland.